They call him the Monster, a baby-faced assassin who carries the kind of punching power that feels wildly out of place in his division. His name is Naoya Inoue, and his story isn't just about victories, belts, or highlight reel knockouts. It's about punishment. It's about cold, unforgiving retribution against those who dared to disrespect him, his family, or his legacy. Time and again, opponents made the same mistake, believing the polite, humble Japanese champion was nothing more than a soft-spoken fighter who could be walked over with arrogance and trash talk. But when the bell rang, when the insults were stripped away, Naoya Inoue reminded them that contracts were not signed for fights. They were signed for executions. And in this story, you will witness exactly how the Monster handed out justice, breaking down cocky fighters and silencing those who mocked him in the most brutal way possible. The first to taste his wrath was McDonnell, a proud British fighter with a polished record: 30 wins, 2 losses, a reigning WBA champion, and perhaps more importantly, a man who had never been knocked out. On paper, McDonnell was every bit the monster he claimed to be, a tall and experienced fighter with stamina, skill, and the kind of confidence that makes men reckless. He believed he could outclass the Japanese contender, boasting before the fight, "I'm going to smash him. I know I am." It was bold, it was provocative, and it was a mistake, because against Inoue, words mean nothing. Only fists matter. The bell rang, and from the very first second, Inoue came charging out like a predator in a hurry, as though he had somewhere more important to be, perhaps back in the locker room with a sushi plate waiting for him. McDonnell barely had time to breathe before Inoue's hands tore through him with a devastating barrage. The playful testing ended almost instantly. With one of his signature brutal combinations, Inoue cracked McDonnell's defenses and delivered the first knockout of the Brit's career. Years of experience, the pride of never being stopped, it all vanished in moments. Inoue not only claimed victory that night, he walked away with the WBA title added to his collection. But more importantly, he made a statement. No one, no matter how confident, could disrespect him and survive untouched. The stakes would only rise in the World Boxing Super Series, where the best fighters on the planet gathered to prove who truly deserved to be called champion. Just being included in that lineup was a mark of danger. These were killers, men with no equals. And standing in front of Inoue in the semi-finals was Emmanuel Rodriguez, an undefeated Puerto Rican prodigy, with a perfect record: 19 wins, no losses, and 11 knockouts. Rodriguez was not just talented, he was regarded as a genius of the sweet science, the kind of fighter who could adapt, outthink, and outmaneuver even the most dangerous opponents. On paper, this was a test of skill against raw destruction. But this fight carried more than belts or reputations. It carried vengeance. Because, days before the fight, in the gym, an act of disrespect ignited a fire in Inoue that could not be extinguished. Rodriguez's coach, brimming with arrogance, shoved Inoue's father right in front of him. Inoue's father, the man who trained him, who molded him, who guided his career from the beginning, had been humiliated. For Inoue, this wasn't about strategy anymore. This was about honor. Inoue swore to himself that he would avenge the insult, and his opponent would pay the price for his coach's arrogance. The bell rang, and Rodriguez, confident in his boxing IQ, came out aggressively, trying to control the ring. But he had no idea the storm he was facing. Fueled by fury, Inoue exploded with combinations so fast and so precise that Rodriguez crumbled like a Jenga tower struck by a hammer. It was the first time Rodriguez had ever been dropped, and though he somehow staggered back to his feet, there was no escape. Inoue, adhering to the way of the samurai, finished what he started. With ruthless precision, he dismantled Rodriguez piece by piece, leaving no doubt that this wasn't just a victory, it was punishment. By the end of the night, Inoue stood as the IBF champion, and Rodriguez's undefeated record was gone, shattered alongside his pride. For Inoue, the mission was complete. His father's honor had been avenged, and the world had witnessed what happens when you disrespect the monster. Antonio Nieves was another fighter who underestimated Inoue, a master craftsman with an impressive record of 17 wins and only 1 split decision loss. Nieves believed he was the man who could test the rising Japanese star. After all, Inoue's early career had been fought mostly in Japan, and many critics wondered if he could truly handle top-level competition on the world stage. Nieves stepped into the ring with confidence, thinking he would expose the hype. Instead, he walked into a nightmare. From the opening bell, Inoue stalked him like prey in a prairie. The monster was the predator, and Nieves quickly realized he had been cast in the role of the hunted. Inoue's fists poured down like rain, punishing the arrogant challenger who dared question his talent. Round after round, Nieves absorbed the kind of punishment that strips away pride, his mouth silenced by the fists that battered him. By the 6th round, Inoue's dominance was absolute. Nieves' corner, unable to watch the slaughter continue, threw in the towel to save their fighter from further destruction. Inoue didn't just win. He proved to the world that he wasn't just hype, he was something far more terrifying. But Inoue's path of punishment had begun even earlier in his career, when he was still an unknown figure in the boxing world. Of his early opponents, Warlito Perinas believed the young Japanese fighter was nothing special. He dismissed him as a rookie, taunting and mocking him during their bout, treating him as if he didn't belong in the same ring. For Inoue, this was more than disrespect, it was provocation, and the monster never tolerated arrogance. Like a man loading live ammunition into a machine gun, Inoue unleashed hell. Every punch was a bullet, every combination a ruthless reminder that rookies demand respect, too. By the time he was finished, Perinas was broken, his parade of mockery silenced forever. It was one of many nights where Inoue proved that arrogance in his presence carried a cost. Then came Pechbarn-born Kokiet, a Thai fighter with an iron jaw, a man who had earned a reputation for toughness and durability. Kokietgim entered the ring, confident, questioning Inoue's power with his demeanor, daring him to try and crack his chin. But arrogance is gasoline to Inoue's fire. Patiently, methodically, he chipped away at the so-called iron jaw, melting it punch by punch with fiery fists. The crowd watched as the unbreakable man was broken, consciousness drained from him by a merciless onslaught. When Kokietgim finally collapsed, the arena erupted not in shock, but in awe. It wasn't just a knockout, it was a masterpiece of brutality. Another example of Inoue's artistry in destruction. These fights, scattered across years, all carried the same lesson. Over and over, opponents looked at Naoya Inoue and saw only the surface, the baby face, the polite demeanor, the quiet confidence. They mistook humility for weakness. They mistook silence for fear. And every time, they paid the price. Inoue punished them with fists of iron, teaching them that respect is not optional when facing the monster. What makes his story so compelling isn't just the victories or the titles. Though he has claimed them all, it's the way he wins. Inoue doesn't just defeat his opponents, he dismantles them. He takes their pride, their records, their reputations, and he breaks them on the canvas. Every fight feels like more than sport. It feels like justice being served, cold and merciless. Inside the ropes of a boxing ring, Naoya Inoue isn't just a champion. He's a force of nature. He's a reminder that in boxing, arrogance is dangerous, and disrespect is fatal. Those who mocked him, who mocked his family, or who dared to underestimate him, all ended the same way, broken, humbled, and silenced by the fists of the monster. And so, the legend of Naoya Inoue continues to grow. Each fight another chapter in a story, written not with words, but with knockouts. Every time he steps into the ring, the question isn't if he will win. It's how he will punish the next man who stands across from him. And if history has taught us anything, it's that when Naoya Inoue is disrespected, the end comes quickly, brutally, and without mercy. So now, I turn the question to you. Which of these arrogant challengers do you think suffered the most humiliating defeat at the hands of Naoya Inoue? Was it McDonnell, silenced after years of pride in never being knocked out? Was it Rodriguez, whose arrogance cost him both his undefeated record and his dignity? Or perhaps it was those early opponents who mocked the young Inoue, only to discover too late that the monster had arrived? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Ring Kings for more stories of legendary fighters and unforgettable moments in boxing history.